In Microsoft Word, you can change the spacing between lines as well as the spacing before or after each paragraph. Formatting a document with line or paragraph spacing can help make a document easier to read. Teachers may require assignments to be double-spaced to help make adding handwritten comments easier. In previous versions of Word, the default line spacing was set to single spacing, or 1.0, and paragraph spacing was set to 0. In Word 2007, the default line spacing is 1.15, which leaves a small amount of space between each line. The default paragraph spacing has 10 points of space after each paragraph, which is why you see the added space between paragraphs when you press Enter. There are several ways you can change line spacing. One way is by going up to the paragraph group on the home ribbon and clicking the line spacing button. You see here that you have several choices. The one that is checked is the one that is currently in use. And again, 1.15 is the default line spacing for Word 2007. In previous versions, it was the 1.0, which is single spacing. So let's see what happens when we change the line spacing. I'm going to press Control A to select all of my text, and then I'm going to go up to the line spacing button and choose 1.0. And you see that some of that extra space between the lines went away, and now the lines are right underneath each other. Alright, if we go back up to our line spacing button and choose 2.0, 2.0 is the equivalent of double spacing. And now it added in a lot of extra space between lines, almost or about a whole line of text, or a whole blank line is between your lines of text. Another way to access your line spacing options is to click on the line spacing button, go down to line spacing options, and it opens up the paragraph dialog box where you can see, if you go down to the spacing section and over to where it says line spacing, right now we're on double spacing, but if you click the down arrow, you can choose single or 1.5 lines, and of course double. 1.5 lines is between single and double, so you'd have about a half of a line space in between each line of text. If you need a strange number, something that's not listed in the line spacing button on the paragraph group, you could choose at least, exactly, or multiple, and then you would type in your number over here. So let's say I wanted something different like 2.5. That's not listed in my box. So if I click OK, you see now it's got even more space because I added in 2.5 instead of double, which is 2.0. Okay, another way that you can access line spacing options is by going up to your paragraph group and clicking on the dialog box launcher button. When I click that, it opens up that same paragraph dialog box, and you see here that I have 2.5 line spacing. Alright, let's change this to single spacing. Do you notice how, even though I changed this to single spacing, I still have a lot of space in between my paragraphs? And see, if I try to go down to that that next line, it's making me go to the next paragraph. So you see, this isn't actually a line that I can add text to. It's paragraph spacing. And remember, we mentioned a while ago that the default paragraph spacing is 10 points added after the paragraph. And to change this, it's really easy. I'll just press Control A. If you go to your line spacing button, notice below your line spacing options you have add space before paragraph and remove space after paragraph. It says add space before because there currently isn't any space added. But it says remove space after the paragraph because we currently have that 10 points of spacing. So I'm going to click remove space after paragraph. And now see, it bunches up all of my paragraphs, and you really can't tell where one ends and the next one begins because I don't have my paragraphs indented. But if you did have your paragraphs indented, then you would easily be able to tell where your next paragraph begins. Alright, let me show you another way. Press Control A again. Okay, I'm going to click undo. Well, actually, I'll go back and I'll just add space after the paragraphs, because if I click undo, it'll get rid of my indentations. Alright, if you go to the page layout tab and go over to the paragraph group, you'll see that you have a section called indent and a section called spacing. Right now it says I have 12 points of space after my paragraphs. The default is 10, but because whenever I added space, it automatically went to 12. This, again, you can go back to your line spacing button and you can remove the space, or you can go to your page layout tab and you can click the down arrow and make it go to 0. Or, yet again, you can go to the paragraph dialog box launcher, and over here where it says spacing before and after, you can change it here as well. If you wanted to add space before paragraphs, you could do that in the before box, or in the after box, you would just use the up or down arrow. If you put 6 points of spacing, it puts just a little bit of space. And that just kind of helps make it easier to read. And one more thing I wanted to mention to you all is, if you like keyboard shortcuts, you can use keyboard shortcuts to apply some of the line spacing options. Control 1 is for single spacing, which we're currently on now. Control 2, undo. Control 2 will add in double spacing, and Control 5 will do that 1.5 line spacing, which is between single spacing and double spacing. Now, you do have to use the number keys that are at the top of your keyboard. If you try to use the ones on the numeric keypad over to the right, it won't work.